All right, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Game Changers Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in the Jacksonville, Florida market. And each and every week, we host this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. And this is a live show. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments for our guests to answer. For anyone who is in the Jacksonville market or thinking about getting into it, feel free to reach out to us if you need help on anything. We also still are a very active buyer in the Jacksonville market looking for deals. So feel free to send any of those our way as well. Um, so this week on the show, we have another local Jacksonville guy, Trevor Augustus. So Trevor, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
For sure, man. So for the people who don't know you, can you tell us kind of how you got started in the real estate business and then kind of how that led you to where today?
Yeah, definitely. So let me give, before I started real estate, I think it's important to say this. I had a crazy kind of upbringing where I got in a lot of trouble as a kid. Um, from probably the age of like 12 and on, I got in a lot of trouble. I was in a lot of little juvenile detention centers and halfway houses and kind of a rough go of it, um, trying to find my place in this world. And I'd say I was around 18, 19 years old when I kind of had a chance to start over. I had been literally I dropped out of high school in 11th grade. I was um, living with people I shouldn't have been living with, selling stuff I shouldn't have been selling, getting in trouble, all that kind of stuff. And then when I was around 18, 19, I had a chance to move back in with my mom and just kind of start over. And um, I went up and got a job at the Orange Park Mall, started working there for a little while. And I was doing good. And it was about 6 months into it that my new stepdad at the time mentioned that he had a friend who was hiring. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, what's he do? What is it? He's like, you know what? I don't really know what he does, um, but it's something to do with real estate. And this guy's a millionaire. And so I was like, all right, yeah, cool. I'm in, whatever. And he's like, all right, well, go in for a interview. And so I went to this place here in Mandarin for an interview. It turned out to be the office of Ron LeGrand, who, and this was his business partner, Ray Rock, um, who is not as famous, but he helped Ron start his um, infomercial business with the educational content and stuff. And so I went in and I applied and I found out it was a telemarketer job. He had like a, get rich with no money down infomercial on TV. And it was,
Hmm.
I was like a telemarketer, um, just reading a script, answering the questions, and selling this $50 course with like a book and like some tapes. And I'm 18. I literally know nothing about what I'm even selling. And then I think I was there for a few months when this lady sent me a fruit basket and she said, "Thank you. We just made $70,000 from that course you sold us." And I was just like, what the heck is going on here? This is so weird. And so I kind of weaseled my way in to one of his like boot camp seminars that cost a few grand, where you actually learn like in a classroom setting. And so yeah, that's how I got into this. I started working for him. I went to the seminar. I did not know what they were talking about. It was a 5-day seminar, and it was all about like mostly creative financing. It was like subject to stuff, lease options, get the deed. And I really did not know what they were talking about. But I did notice one
Hmm.
thing. I noticed that everyone who went up there, this was like 1998, 1999, late 90s. I noticed that everyone that got up and told their story about success, they all started the exact same way. They'd say like, well, I put out the signs, and then when the people called, then they'd say how many deals they were doing. And so I left that seminar after 5 days, and the only thing I knew is I had to get these signs. And so like I ordered the buyers and just put them. And so that's literally how I got started. Um, and then just taking those calls, and then I was able to do my first deal from there. So that's the introduction I had into real estate when I was literally 18 years old.
Yeah. And then you started putting out signs, you got your first deal. Did you keep putting out signs, or what happened next?
So it was super interesting. I was getting those calls, getting those deals. There was a teacher who taught the boot camp, one of the boot camps for Ron LeGrand. He goes by the name Will Power. Some people know him. He was running yellow page ads in the phone book, and he was getting tons of leads. And he had a bunch
Mm,
of leads he didn't want because they were like too. He didn't want to go in the hoods and stuff like that. He only wanted pretty houses, nice neighborhoods. And so I actually bought a stack of his old leads off him, a big old stack, for $1,000, I think it was. And I started
mm,
calling them, and that's actually where I got my first deal, was his discarded leads. And
mm.
basically, it was this lady over off Commonwealth. She had gotten married. They moved in with the husband's house. Her house was a piece of crap off McDuff in Commonwealth, and they had tried to sell it. They couldn't sell it. It was 2 or 3 payments behind, and I just asked. There was kind of that magic question when you're trying to get a deal subject to the existing mortgage, was like, will you sell the house for what you owe? And she just said yes. Why don't you come over and um, tell me more about it? And so I went over to their house, and I'll never forget. It was like 8:30 at night because they got off work late. I'm like 18. I'm wearing like an Adidas hoodie, like, and I go in their house, and they got like all these little kids, and I'm sitting on their couch, and their kids are literally like climbing on my back, like they're hanging on me, and I'm like playing with these little toddlers. And I had brought in the course on like how to get subject to deals or whatever. And I
With you,
brought
like
in
the physical course.
the course, the manual, the 3-ring binder. I brought it in case they asked questions. And so like they were asking me questions, and I would literally flip to the answer. And like, and what was cool is they thought it was professional because they thought it was our company manual. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of new, you know. And so I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with Ron LeGrand?
A little bit.
So he's very like, he's funny, but he's like brash. Like, kind of the way he talks is very matter of fact, very brash. And so they were like, well, they were like, um, the question was basically, well, what happens if you don't make our payments or something like that? And so I'd have to turn the page. It was like he literally had the objection. What happens if you don't make our payments? And his answer was, well, who's making your payments now? And the answer was like nobody. And their answer was nobody. So like they looked at each other, and they were just like, yeah, I guess he's got a point. And they signed the deed, and they gave me their freaking house. And that was the first deal.
Wow.
You're kind of lagging.
So
I don't know if you're talking.
yeah, I lost you for a second there, but you said they signed it after you said that, and that was your first deal. That was the last thing I heard.
That was my first deal. I got the deal subject to. I took over their loan. Um, and then I couldn't sell it. I actually moved into it with a friend of mine. And so,
Mm.
but we were 18-year-old kids, and we moved into a house, our own house, for a $400 payment. Um, and so it was kind of awesome.
Yeah. So did you focus a lot on creative finance after that, or what was next for you?
Not really. I would do a couple deals, and like I really didn't stay consistent with it for those first few
Mhm.
years. Like I would do, I started going on the road with him where I was kind of like his back of the room sales guy selling his boot camps
Mm.
and stuff. And I made pretty good money doing that. Um, so I would travel with him, and I started DJing. I used to DJ like raves and stuff, and I would throw like parties and concerts and stuff. So I really would do like one or two deals a year. Um, and then when I like really needed money, I would like always go back and crunch down and do a deal. But then I'd take it for granted and forget about real estate for a year or two. And then so probably in those first 5, 6 years, I maybe did 5 or 10 deals. And then
Mhm.
trying to remember, like, so the market kind of like, it reached its peak in like 2005 ish. And then while I was working the seminars, I met a guy who was doing short sales. And um, that's when those became hot. So for about 3 years straight, I was putting out signs saying "Sell your house in 9 days," where I would buy someone's house and I would have them deed me their house that needed a short sale, and I would spend 6, 9, 12 months negotiating the short sale. And then once I got the short sale at a price I wanted, I just put it back on the market, sell it, take the profit. And I did literally like 2 or 300 of those from like
Cool.
oh 07, 08 to like 2012. I was doing 30, 40, 50 a year of those specifically. And then I would say around 2012, I was on the radar for like the banks, and they really put a crackdown on um, letting me buy those short sales. They started saying I couldn't resell it for like a year. They wanted me to sign papers that I wouldn't resell it. And so I kind of got out of that again. And then I got into internet marketing, um, just trying to pay the bills, working in SEO, working with friends in the information marketing business. Um, and in that time, when that short sale stuff had stopped working, I actually went back and got in trouble again for selling weed. And that was like super scary because it was in Louisiana and I was facing 30 years in prison. And it was super sketchy. And so I spent 3 to 5 years fighting that case and getting through. My plea bargain was house arrest, and I got through it and all that. And then I would say around 2015 is when I got back into real estate full time. This time, and I've been full time. I would say 8, 9 years since then. Is when I've like this has been
Yeah.
my best streak of like sticking with the business and you know really taking it serious. And I've got kids now, and um, live in the suburbs, and turn my life around. You could say.
And like back in, I know like you've kind of a different strategy than a lot of people in the business. Did you kind of start with that idea in mind that you wanted to not work that many hours a week and focus on like SEO, or did that come at a later point?
Well, I was in that business of like the guys who teach flipping houses, like the guru business, the information marketing
Hmm.
business. I was in that world. I'd met a lot of people with Ron LeGrand in the seminar business. So I knew a lot of teachers who were teaching real estate. And so that's how I met the guy who taught me the short sale stuff. He started the short sale service. And no, I never really went into it like trying not to work much. And I think that's probably been like, if I have like any key to success, like any key to success I've had is because I just started so young. I kind of just followed the courses, and I didn't really care what happened. I didn't expect anything to happen. I would literally read the script. I mean, you heard me say I brought this stupid manual into people's houses. And I think because I started so young and kind of naive, um,
Hmm.
and just like I didn't know what I didn't know, so I just followed the course. I would just follow these courses. And so I've ended up with all these educational courses on how to wholesale, how to take subject to houses. And then, I would say since 2015, I've really gained the experience of being a real cash buyer, of, closing deals, taking down deals, renovating deals. And in a way, it's kind of made me lazier where, um, that's all I want to do. If it doesn't fit that box, then I'll kind of not do it. Um, and
Hmm.
so, the reason why I'm able to like not work very much right now is because this year's just been slower. Like my lead flow slowed. Um, I haven't been able to get as many good deals this year, and so I'd rather not lose money than take a risk. Um, so this year I've just, you know, been coasting because I was able to, you know, pay off my house and buy my kid's mom a house, and um, I've got, some private lending stuff going, and IRAs and solo 401ks. And I was able to do really good from 2015. I really rode that wave up to
Mm.
2022, let's say. Um, and now with the rates jumping up and the market kind of going slower, it's not like it's bad or anything, but deals have really slowed down for me this year. And I've just really taken the opportunity to like spend all the extra time with my kids, not force stuff, um, and just enjoy life. I started writing a book. I'm kind of like thinking about starting some other businesses. I'm like, what else could I do? I'm still buying houses. I bought a house last week and I'm renovating it. And like, I went and made an offer
Hmm.
yesterday, and they want to sell. So I'm still doing like, let's say a deal a month, let's say, but I'm used to doing 4 or 5 a month. And so it's a big slowdown for me.
Yeah. But even before everything kind of changed with the market, I mean, you still weren't working 40, 60 hours a week, which I think
No, I
is pretty
wasn't.
awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff was JV stuff. So I did probably, I don't know how many deals. We both know Kyle Paskowicz. He's the man here in Jacksonville. And so I did a lot of JV partnerships with him where he
Hmm.
would handle the renovation. I would basically do the acquisition. He would handle the renovation and the sell. And so all I had to do was show up, get the deal, lock it up, hand it off, and then wait for my check. And so a lot of the deals I did like that. And then I did build up when I was even doing my own renovations. I've got 2 crews now where I just completely trust the guys to run it. It's got to pass inspection. If it doesn't pass inspection, you guys fix it. And so I'm definitely pretty lazy, honestly. Like I'm really like pretty lazy, and I try to use that as my advantage. One
Hmm.
thing I tell myself is it makes me feel good about being lazy is have you heard the story about the lion like and the mouse walks by? Like
No?
a lion will not chase a mouse. A lion sleeps all day. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to be a hustler, a grinder. I'm a lion in business. I'm a beast." All this stuff. A lion sleeps most of the day, and they'll really
Hmm.
only go chase something if it's a big game. A mouse can literally walk right in front of a lion's face. It's not worth the calories that he's going to exert to chase this little mouse. It's not going to fill him up, right? And
Hmm.
so I really like to operate like that. Like if it's not a home run deal or an easy deal, I don't mind doing singles, little small deals, but it's got to be easy. Carpet, paint, quick flip. If it's not like kind of a no brainer, um, I'd really just rather not do it. Um, and so I
Yeah.
really have been able to only do stuff that fits my skill set. And I've learned the hard way, that I'm just not good at picking out lights and paint colors um, and like doing any of the handyman work. Like I'm just, I'm not going to do it very good at all. And so it's just my skill is in, marketing and acquisitions, and that's pretty much it. I try to let other people do the rest.
Yeah. So I guess a question that comes up a lot in real estate is how do you find two crews like that that you can just trust to handle? the whole renovation for you?
So I don't know if this is a coincidence, but they're both military veterans. Um, and so there's definitely a strong like character and honor in these guys. Now, I'm not saying the military doesn't have guys that, you know, have bad character or anything like that, but they happen to both be that. And I would say like how I've done it with both of them, I've done it the exact same. I usually start with one specific job first. So like
Mm,
it might be like change out all the wood on this porch, or like re-pour the slab on this thing, or change out the kitchen cabinets. Like I'm going to give them a job where the labor on it's less than $1,500. So do that first, and then okay, cool, that was cool. Now let me see you do the drywall. I'll give you another 4 grand if you do the drywall and change out the fireplace. And like we started with probably 3 to 5 jobs in this like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then I slowly built up. And then once we did a couple houses like that, then it's like, okay, yeah, this one's going to be 40 grand. And I'm not giving them 40 grand up front. I might give them 10 to order materials. And then
hmm
I like to do things in thirds instead of like half and half. Like most people want like half, most contractors want like half up front, but like you can lose a lot giving someone half up front. Like that's
Yeah.
enough for them to walk away and be happy ripping you off. Like they'll happily steal your 50%. So to me, that's too much. Like I'd rather just give them like 25% down, and then I want to see a good amount of the work's done, and then we'll give them another 25% or a third. I do a lot of thirds. So it's like, show me you've done a third of the work, or even a half of the work. Once you've done a half of the work, then I'll give you the second third. And then
hmm
I'm paying as needed. Like I know the guys, we trust each other. At first, I'm always going to hold something back. Like even if you know them, you trust them, you just never want to write a check that like it's going to kill you to lose. So start small.
Yeah. That's good advice, starting people on a small job, a little bit bigger, because you lower your
They
risk a
like
lot
it
with that and you get
too,
to see how they work.
and they get to see how you work. So they get to see, do you
Yeah.
pay fast? Are you easy to work with? Are you highly critical? Do you hold them accountable? Like, what's your personality? Do you guys text each other? Do they not show up? Are they a week late? Like, it's like a dating period, and we're gonna date with a bunch of $500, $1,500 jobs for at least three to
hmm
five jobs like that before we're rocking and rolling. And by then, like, I know their families and been to their houses, and I I just was the real estate agent. And I helped my contractor buy a house this year, um,
hmm
so it's definitely building the relationship from there. But
Yeah.
you pitch it to them like that. Like you want to make sure I'm good to work with too. That I'm actually going to pay you and pay you fast, and because they're worried about you as much as you're worried about them if they're good.
Sure. Yeah. And I guess how did you find those guys initially?
So the first one, it's one of those apps, and I can't remember. I don't remember the name of the app right now. But if
Huh.
you named a couple, like I don't know if you know any of the app names.
Like
It's
Thumbtack
not.
or one of those things.
I think it was Thumbtack. I actually
Yeah.
think it was Thumbtack. So the first one I found on Thumbtack. The second one was so my neighbor was renovating his house. He bought a house 2 doors down from me, and he was renovating. I went up and asked him, "Hey man, do you renovate houses for a living?" He's like, "No, I'm just a homeowner." He had just bought the house, so I hadn't met him yet. He's like, "But I did meet this guy. I was selling my tools recently, and he said he just moved here. He's a contractor from New York, bought a bunch of tools for me." He's like, "I never met this guy before." He's like, "But he seemed like a good guy. You're welcome to
Hmm.
try him out." And I actually tried him out, and he's a military guy too. He contracts for the Navy, does contracting on the side. He's got his crew. He's got his family working for him. And so, one of them was Thumbtack, and the other one was a referral from a neighbor. But it was like not a solid referral. I definitely had to test the relationship.
Yeah.
But give
For
them a
sure.
tile job. Give them a bathroom. Give them have them change out of vanity. Don't give them everything at once. Start small, learn each
Yeah.
other, and build up that trust, just like dating.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, with the amount of hours that you were working before, even just doing acquisitions, I mean, 4 to 5 deals a month is very solid. I mean, how many hours a week for people who don't know, or would you say you were working when you were doing 4 or 5 deals a month?
Maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, I guess, for 5 days a week. So maybe 25,
Yeah.
30 at the most. Um,
Yeah.
I've always just taken, and it's really just taking the calls and then going to the appointments that sound good. So I do a lot of pre-qualifying on the phone to make sure that I'm only going to go to a deal that I have a high likelihood of signing up. Meaning, I'm going to give them a
Hmm.
ballpark price of where I think I'm going to be. I'm going to make sure that
Hmm.
we're at least on the same planet, and I literally say it like that to them. Hey, let me look this up.
Mm.
Let me see what I think my ballpark range is. I'll tell you what that is, and if you think we're on the same planet, then I'll come out and I'll give you an exact offer. And if you like it, great, we can write it up. If not, no hard feelings. I'll leave as friends, and I'll point you in the right direction of someone else. But I'm really only going to houses if we're on the same planet with that ballpark price. And so I do a
Yeah.
lot of that, like pre-screening um, on the phone. And I
Hmm.
was only taking inbound leads. So like all my leads are either SEO or I stopped PPC 2 years ago, but before that it was PPC. And PPC
Hmm.
I could close two out of 10. And my organic SEO I close like 1 out of 3. So I really don't have to talk to too many people, to get
Yeah.
to get deals.
Yeah, for sure. And what else do you do to pre-qualify people besides that ballpark range?
Um, so like I've got a property information sheet. Let's see if I have a blank one. I don't want to show you this lady's information, but I'm basically just I've got a property information sheet. And so and the property information sheet is just a guideline. Like the main thing is I just want to talk to the seller. I try to talk to them as long as possible. Like my goal is to talk to
Mm.
each person about 20 to 30 minutes. And so we can talk about anything they want to talk about. And then I've just got the property information sheet in front of me. So I know I can kind of hit the points um,
Mm.
as we're going. I don't want to sound robotic like, what's the address of your property? What's the city and state? Why are you selling? How much do you think it's worth? What do you owe? I want it to be like a naturally flowing conversation where I'm sliding that stuff in there at the natural
Mm.
points. Where at the bottom it says, does it have a pool? You know, if they're telling me it has a pool early on, I'm going to check that off. I'm going to jump down to the bottom. So I'm always jumping around the page. And I've just got a few questions on here about like, if you had the house appraised, what do you think it'd be worth? And then I always like to ask them like, how'd you come up with that number? And just figure out like where are they getting their values from? Are they getting their value from Zillow? Because that could be ammo for you. Like Zillow could be really low sometimes. So, you
Hmm.
know, and then you could say, okay, well, what's your asking price? If I were to pay all cash and close quickly, is that the best you could do? Um,
Hmm.
and then I'll always add on. So you're saying if I don't give you 200,000, you won't sell the house, and like really just go ahead and put it to them, and start working it that way. But I'm working it in very naturally. I want them to talk as
Hmm.
much. I grew. Tell me about you raised your kids there. That's awesome. I'm going to tell you that I'm raising my kids right now. Like, congratulations, your kids are all grown up and out of the house. Like to me, that's a feather in your cap. Like,
Mm.
it's hard raising kids. I can't imagine like the feeling of doing it. So congratulations, like you actually did that. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about whatever they're talking about, and then so what's it like now that they're gone? Is I just want to downsize. Well, what's that mean? Like, is it just too much to clean? Are you lonely in the big house? Like, I want to figure out like why. And the more you talk to them about like their personal situation, and you're not just a robot like asking them, well, how much is your mortgage? and th- and even that, I'm going to say things like oh, so you've owned the house for 20 years. Have you paid it off yet, or do you still have a mortgage? I'm going to say
Mm,
it in a way where it's with the flow of the conversation. And so
yeah,
I'd say that's a big key is really working, having a property information sheet to work off of, um, that keeps you focused and lets you get all the information you need, but that you're not glued to it, and that you can let the conversation go wherever they want it to go. Because the more they talk, especially about themselves and about their situation, the more they're going to trust you, the more they're going to open up, the more they're
mm,
going to feel, um, you know, they'll even feel guilty at the end. Well, man, I've been talking the whole time. Tell me about yourself. Oh, yeah, well, I bought 400 or 500 houses, and um, I'd love to buy yours and whatever. But it's like, the more you can get them talking, you can build that rapport, you can build that trust, the more likely you're going to close the deal.
yeah,
And you can solve their problem. You can learn, like, okay, if this isn't a deal for me, maybe it's a listing. You know, you can think outside the box. Maybe you've got a friend or a partner or someone else might want it. I'm always getting
yeah,
texts from real estate agents. They're looking for off market stuff, and um, try to line up stuff the best you can. So I really just go in trying to help the people as much as possible, trying to talk to
mm,
them. I want to learn about their situation, because the more I know, the more I kind of trust myself to, like, oh, okay, now I'm connecting the dots. This might work. And so
hmm,
I think I think that's probably like the main thing with talking to sellers.
yeah. I think you said one thing that's kind of unique there too, which is you try to spend 20 or 30 minutes on that call. Is
Yes.
is there any like other reason behind that besides just kind of building that trust and getting the whole story?
Yeah, you're just not going to get much if you're just talking like price and numbers right away.
Hmm.
um, because the best deals in our business aren't really numbers based. Like, if someone's just numbers based, like, give me an offer, how much can you pay? Like, our huge selling point is not that our offer is like the highest offer, right?
Hmm.
So our huge selling point is the convenience and the solving of the problem, and the taking the weight off their shoulders. And
Hmm.
you really have to listen and let people talk before they're going to feel comfortable sharing that with you. Most people will start off with their guard up, and and the, and they may not even realize they've been telling themselves a lie, that they're in a bad spot. You know, I was at a house yesterday where the guy told me on the phone, this is. I said, I don't know if I can buy your house. It's a really nice neighborhood. I was like, I don't know if I could buy your house. I don't pay retail price. I usually buy fixer uppers, foreclosures, stuff like that. He's like, well, this isn't a project house. This is a really nice house and all this stuff. I just keep talking, let him talk, let him talk. Ended up going over there. Dude, the house needs 40 grand in work. And he's like, this isn't a project house. It's not a project house. It's like a beautiful house. And it's like, dude, your floors are completely shot. Like, the whole house smells like cats. Like, the cabinets are falling apart. But in his mind, he was in the defensive to, like, this isn't a fixer upper. He just didn't see it that way. But you have to
Hmm.
keep talking to people, before they're going to open up. They just don't open up right away. And so I really just try to not have an agenda, and I do try to stay on the phone up to 30 minutes is kind of my goal when I'm talking to people.
Mm,
It's a weird
cool.
goal, I know, but it there's something about it where I feel like if I'm not in a hurry, that I get so much more out of it. And at the very least, like, you do get to connect with a human being. And, like, this
Mm,
may sound corny, but, like, I work from home alone half the time. I don't mind talking to people. It, like, makes me feel good. I'll walk
yeah,
around the house and I'll be in a better mood after I talk to someone. And so I think it's the right way to handle it all the way around.
yeah. And then I know you do a lot of SEO stuff. I actually remember when I came down to Jacksonville, I was like just curious who's ranking, for all those search terms. and I know you
Yeah.
were up there. Um, what made you decide to go that route versus all the other forms of marketing that people use?
It was really by chance. So like when I had gotten out of real estate a little bit before, from like 2012 to 2015, I was working with a couple local internet marketers. They're kind of local legends in a way. Brian Hansen and Francis Ablola. They're two good friends of mine, and uh, I just started working with them for their because I was looking for my next thing to do, and I'd been out of real estate for a few years, and they had a really good information marketing business. They were making websites for people. They were doing coaching on like how to get traffic and get leads and build your funnels and all that kind of stuff, which was new to me. But one of their clients ended up being a real estate guru, and they created this coaching program to help these people launch their websites and create the funnel to get leads from sellers. Well, they kind of handed the project off to me, and so I kind of crash course learned like building these websites for people, setting up the pay-per-click um, campaigns, making sure they were getting the leads. But what was crazy is all these people were brand new and they were buying like these expensive, like $20,000 coaching packages, but they really did not know how to do deals. And they were all over the
Mm,
country and like other states where, I mean, I could do my best to try to help them, but I wasn't really that active in the business at the time. And plus, I didn't live, in Milwaukee or wherever they lived. And I just kind of had this epiphany. I was like, wait, now I know how to build websites. Now I know how to market and get leads. I've done hundreds of deals. I know how to do deals. I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I just kind of built the website, the jackshomeoffer.com, ran some pay per click to it, got some leads. And then I just started experimenting with like the SEO stuff that I was learning from Brian and Francis, of just like
mm,
doing blogs and doing press releases and then doing the backlinks and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of like flooded it all to my site. And this was 2015. And like over the next 2, 3 years, yeah, I was able to rank really good. And I was on the first page for a lot of the big terms, We Buy Houses, Jacksonville, and all that stuff. But to be honest with you, around like 2019, 2020, it got
mm,
extremely competitive. Like a lot of these,
mm,
a lot of other local house buyers here started doing SEO packages with some big SEO companies, and they shot right past me. And I would say over the past year or two, I've watched my organic rankings slowly tank. Like they've been slowly
mm,
dropping. And I would say about 6 months ago, I realized I was on like page 3 for a lot of terms that I used to be in the top 5 on. And so this year, since like my leads kind of slowed down, I've had more time. I've kicked it back into gear. Like I've hired bloggers, I've got some people doing backlinks for me, and I'm watching the
mm.
rankings, and I'm actually coming back. So I'm like getting to the top of page 2. I should be on page 1 on a lot of stuff probably in the next month or two. So it is one of those things that if you take it for granted, um,
Mm.
it's competitive. These guys will come take your lunch money from you if you're not watching and you're not staying on top of it. And I did get a little lackadaisical, um, but luckily I know how to bring it back, and that's what I've been focusing on for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's a
And
lot
for
of the
people,
reason why my lead flow went down this year.
sure. And for people who don't know about SEO, why are backlinks important to moving up the
To
ranking?
be honest, like it's all like mumbo jumbo to me. To be honest with you, it's Google. So Google just has an algorithm for everything, and they have
Hmm.
like a weighted system for all the different inputs to determine what website they should show first. And so some of the
Hmm.
things they're looking for are, the age of your site, like has it been, does it have credibility and history? Um, what do your reviews look like? Um, and then one of the signals in their algorithm is like your trust factor. Um, there's a term for it. I'm just going blank on it right now, but it basically, the more websites are willing to refer their traffic to you, the more credible Google sees your website as. Now, obviously, people
Mm,
game the system and they flood it with all these like rinky dink websites that are just made up that don't mean anything. But Google's looking for like what's it's domain authority. So like domain authority. So there's you can check like what websites have the highest domain authority. So if let's say NBC News does a story on you and they say Jack's Home Offer is the best local home buyer in Jacksonville, and they run a story and they send NBC News traffic to your website, Google sees that as okay, NBC says they're good. If someone wants to sell their house in Jacksonville, I should probably show that, because Google
mm-hmm,
wants to be seen as the best search engine. That's the only way they can
mm-hmm,
still stay relevant, is if people go on Google and they type in "sell my house fast" or you know how to tie a tie, and they get a good answer quickly. And Google watches all that stuff. So what Google will do is types in "I want to sell my house fast," and then they send them to your website, but then they back off your website. They're like, this isn't what I'm looking for, and they back off. You actually lose credibility. Google keeps track of
mm,
all that. If someone's leaving your site and then they have to type it again, "sell my house fast in Jacksonville," you're going to be noticed as someone who did not solve the problem. So they're going to be less likely to refer you for that term again. So that's why your site has to be easy to understand, and you want to have like a quick capture thing, where you can get their name, address, and at least make them feel like they've taken a good step towards solving their problem of selling their house fast. And if
mm-hmm.
if they'll stop searching, like if you'll call them real quick or you'll send them an automatic email back, and they stop searching for a while, Google keeps track of that, and they say, "Man, this guy solved that searcher's problem." And so now you're
Mm,
earning trust points in Google's mind. And so the backlinks are just a way to like, I don't want to say game the system, but you're getting all these other people to give you social proof. It's like if a
mm-hmm.
girl sees you as Mr. Popular, she's like, "Oh, that guy must be cool because you have a lot of friends and you're talking to people." And so it's a lot like that.
Yeah. So, like, how do you go about building backlinks? Are there any strategies that people use?
I mean, the organic way is just to ask somebody if you can blog on their website, for free. So let's just say you've got some kind of business where you do cabinets, and I say, "Hey, Mike, how about I write a blog for you about how changing out your cabinets will make your house sell faster?" And I'll write this article for free. You can post it on your website. And all I ask is at the end of the article, it says, "If you'd like to sell your house fast, click here." And then it'll send the
Mm,
traffic to my website. Uh, that's the most organic way to get a backlink. And then you can
got
scale
it.
that. And so obviously there's these huge teams of outsourcers, and you can go on Fiverr and you can pay thousands and thousands of dollars for teams to reach out to people on your behalf. You can set up outbound marketing campaigns. I mean, you could do it big. Um, but to start from scratch, the most organic way is to just ask a local business if you can write a blog for them and just put a link to your site, you know, in exchange for writing that blog.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have outsourced that. So it's not, you're not doing that on a day-to-day basis. You're not reaching
No,
out to
I
write
have.
your blog.
I do like to write kind of my own blogs, and I'll do them on like Google Business, like Google My
Mm,
Business. They have
mm,
like a little update section. They're trying to be like Facebook, where you can literally post like an update. I'll try to do like a little thing on that just to show Google that I'm active and like, "Hey, look at me, I'm still in business. Send me traffic." And then, yeah, I do have a couple bloggers, and then they've built up their network of people that will let them post articles on other websites, and they'll do the backlinks. And so you can pay $20, $100, $200, just depending on the domain authority. The big thing is to watch out because a lot of these, um, there's like white hat SEO, which is very clean, organic. They're real sites. And then there's like black hat or gray hat SEO, where you're kind of dealing with like these website farms where they've made a bunch of fake sites and then they just try to send each other traffic and game the system. You don't want a lot of that stuff, although it really does work for a while, but eventually
Mm.
I think Google kind of catches on to it and you'll get penalized eventually. But it's a whole game of like quality versus quantity. And I choose to try to do, more quality because I want to be in it for the long run. And I think I've built up a good long history of good age on the website. The website's 8 years old. I've got, you know, not a ton, but 30 or 40 like 5-star, really good reviews.
Mm.
And that really helps with your Google Maps listing. So if you can get some good reviews and you can put your address on the Google My Business website, I think that's the easiest, quickest way to get some SEO traffic. Is just to try to rank locally. When you hit map and you see like who's close to you for a
Hmm.
business, that's probably the easiest one to get started with. If you're going to do blogging and like outbound and like link building and stuff like that, backlinks, it can take literally like, for me, 6 to 12 months to really see um, the fruits of that labor. I know there's people out there who can do it faster, and I don't know how legit they are, um,
Mm.
but that's kind of the game you're playing. And if you're trying to do a deal now, like tomorrow, SEO is not going to be your first strategy. But if you'd like to build a long-term asset, then SEO is, I think, the best bang for your buck long term.
Hmm. Yeah, the gift that keeps on giving.
People know the difference. And people know the difference. So like if they type in We Buy Houses Jacksonville, those first ones all say promotion or advertisement or whatever it says. People know those are like pay per click. People know that
Mm.
like you paid to be there. You're not organically the best listing. So at least maybe I'm giving people too much credit. Obviously, a lot of people still click on the pay per click listings because they do work. But I think a lot of people just scroll down past those three that are obviously ads. That's what they say. They say ads. And then
Mm.
after that, like Google's recommending what they feel are the best organic um, websites available. And so that's where you want to be. And I've noticed that when we get the leads from the organic, just the conversion rate is through the roof. Like
Mm.
like I don't have exact data on this, but like for the most part, it's 25 to 50% conversion rate. Like it's 2 to 4 leads a month. I'm getting one or two of those.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, and that's
Any
how.
tips for people who? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's how. In the long run, if you don't want to work a lot, like that's how you don't work a lot and still do deals.
Yeah, and then for people who are to the stage, I guess maybe they're ranking a little bit and generating those inbound leads. Do you have any tips around handling those leads when they come in, besides what you've already covered?
Well, so my website is a Carrot website. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Carrot websites. They're the most popular real estate investor platform you can get. So it's really just about having a step one, making it really easy, letting them type in their name,
Mm.
their phone number, and I think the address. So just get a few things first, and that step one is done. At least you get that lead. And then I have to set up. Give me a second. I'll think of the app, the name of the app. You probably know it more than me, but like that gets emailed to me and it gets texted to me right away. So I have an app that
Mm.
automatically forwards those website leads and I get a text message. And I literally stop what I'm doing and I call that lead. Like I call them in 30 seconds. They're usually filling out step 2 when I call them.
Mm.
They're like, "Whoa, that was fast." I'll say, "Yeah, the website leads get
Huh.
routed right to my." I'll say, "I'm the owner. I get the website leads routed right to my phone." if you don't mind, I'd love you to fill out step 2 so I have it and I don't forget anything we talk about. But I wanted to call you quick and just, make sure you didn't have a 911 situation. What's going on with your house? And I'll start talking to them right there. And I think having someone knowledgeable, that clearly has experience that can build that trust right away. At least for me, I haven't really
Mm,
tried it in any other way, so I'm not going to say one way is better than the other. But for me, since the SEO leads is not high volume, I want to take those leads. Like that's the highest and best use of my time because
mhm.
I don't want to be kicking myself if someone else messes it up. So little bit of a control freak there, but I just think that's where my skill set and that's where my time is best spent is is handling that. I could be wrong. Maybe someone else could do it just as good as me, but that's my system.
Yeah. And then, I know like kind of a lot of people in this business, try to really scale their business and, really want to ramp it up and do all that, but you've intentionally chosen not to do that. I think that's an interesting
Yep.
thing to talk about and why you chose that and kind of how it's been working out for you.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Um, it could be like maybe there's a like an honest answer of just like not my personality or I didn't succeed in like the leadership, the management, the building, the culture, the hiring and firing, and like I have hired quite a few people. I probably hired and fired 10 or 15 people over the 8 years. It's usually just an assistant, but
Hmm.
I'm really just not that great at the hiring, the delegating, the building of systems. Um, I've tried to do it many times, and you know, I don't even have an office. I'm like in my informal dining room right now. And so, yeah, just for whatever reason, like I'll hire people, and I just don't feel like the momentum. Like I spend all my time trying to make them. I end up trying to teach them everything I know. Is really what happens. I like,
Hmm.
oh, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then I'm not doing anything. I'm not like I'm just spending all my time teaching this person. And so it's really probably just a personal deficiency where I'm just not great at scaling and creating systems and doing it. And I've just was able to do, from 2016 to 2022, I was doing between 30 to 50 deals a year. A lot of it was JV stuff and just handing off the renovation side. Um,
Hmm.
and I find that if I do what I do and I just I focus on the acquisition, I
Hmm.
let the title company do what they do. I let the, renovation crew or the JV partner do what they do. I really didn't need to build a big team and a big system and get a big office. And, I've got friends that, do all that. And, you know, they'll tell me candidly sometimes, dude, wish I didn't do that. like, like they'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just sitting on the porch. I don't know. What are you doing?" They're like, "Oh my god, we just had a meeting with 25 people," and like, so maybe I'm not reaching my full potential, but again, I've built up a life that I like. I've exceeded um, where my direction was heading. With what we
Hmm.
talked about and like some of the trouble I had got in, and I'm living in a nice house that's paid off. Like I said, I bought my kid's mom a house. I've got a couple rentals. I've got private lending stuff going. I'm doing a deal or two a month now. I don't really need a lot else. Like my kids are young. Um, I have them 4 days a week, and I try to turn
Hmm.
off my phone and spend my time with them. And you know, I don't want to spend all day every day doing real estate. And so that's really just what it comes down to.
Yeah. Do you, I think something a lot of people struggle with, I'll to personally do is just like feeling like they should be doing stuff, right? Did you
Yeah.
ever experience that? And how did you, if you did, how did you break out of it and say, no, I mean, I'll just work my 15 hours a week and that's fine?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, I obviously feel guilty if I'm sitting around and doing nothing. But I don't think, like, I guess because I was 18 when I really went to all these seminars, and I learned, I guess I got to credit Ron LeGrand from this. You know, he really taught that you can't make a seller motivated. Like, a
Mm,
seller has to be motivated enough to call me, and then motivated enough to talk to me, and then motivated enough to want an appointment, and motivated enough to hear my ballpark price and want me to come, and then motivated enough to take the deal. It's kind of like attraction, like with like girls and guys and dating. Like, attraction's not a choice, right? Like, you just
mm,
are attracted to who you're attracted to. I really see deals like that. I don't try to force deals. I don't try to talk anyone into anything. Like, I really feel like the motivated seller that needs me, I'm there for them. If I'm not the best fit, like, I'm not going to spend all day trying to force it. And so I think the key is probably to, like, do other things. Like, if you're feeling
mm,
like you should be doing more in your business, but there's really nothing like super important to do, like, you should go to the gym, you should go out to dinner, you should call a friend, you should, like, have some fun with your life. Um, because I have found that when I stress, like, I can think of, like, examples really coming to me right now where, because I'm kind of in the position I'm in, I will go a couple months, 2, 3 months without a deal sometimes. And then all of a sudden I'll get
mm,
4 or 5 deals in a month. Right. But, like, when it starts to hit that second month, third month, I'm feeling, oh my God, is my business over for life? Is this done? Like doomsday. Am I never going to ever do a deal again? Every single time I'll just, like, take my kids to the beach or something and, like, turn my phone off. Almost every time I'll get a voicemail from, like, a seller that calls me back from 4 months ago. It's happened at least 3 to 5 times that I can think of right now. When you just let go, like, as long as you've done the work, like, don't get it wrong. Like, you can't just manifest and law of attraction yourself from nothing to, like, a deal. But if you've put in your work, you've done your marketing, you've called back your sellers, you've left your voicemails, you've done, like, what you're supposed to do that day. And I believe in setting, like, small goals for that stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot. Like, I mean, you know your business better, and I'll be honest, I know nothing about, like, the outbound marketing business, like the outbound calling or
mm.
outbound texting. I know it's the numbers based business, and you gotta send a lot of stuff. But what I would really say is, like, you know, figure out your goals, set your numbers, literally do, like, your system, and then let yourself trust in the process that you've built.
Mm.
Because if it's not enough, then, like, you're gonna probably have to do something else anyways. Like, I just don't believe that, like, keep trying and trying and trying the same thing that's, like, taking if it's taking too much effort. I don't know. Like, I know I'm kind of talking in circles, but am I making any sense at all?
Yeah, a lot of sense, actually.
Okay. All right.
I, I
That's
I had
really
a
how I
saying
feel.
for I had a saying for a while that, and it was true, which is every time I go on vacation, I buy a deal. I'll just
It's
like my phone will ring
crazy.
and I'm like, okay, I'll answer it.
It's so
And I'm like,
crazy.
wait a second, I haven't done anything for 2 days. It's like,
It's so crazy. And the moment you think you're gonna get a deal just because you do that, like, you won't. But, like, it's when you
yeah,
truly forget about it. Like,
yeah,
it's like working out. You have to rest, right? It's like there's yin and yang. It's like tennis. It's like dating. If you call the girl too much, she's just gonna be turned needy weirdo. And like you just can't overdo it. You have to let like the universe or your business kick back to you, because the truth is, if it doesn't kick anything back to you, then what you're doing is not working, right? And then
Yeah.
you really have bigger problems.
Yeah. What other shifts did you make in your business kind of as the market changed? Let's call it about a year ago at this point, or maybe a little longer.
So I was slow to realize it was changing. Um, I bought a couple. I did start speculating a little bit. I was buying houses like, oh, it's worth 300 now. It's going to be worth 330 in 6 months when I'm done with the reno. And so I was doing that, and I made a lot of money doing that. So like it's all good. But there was one deal where I bought. I think it's probably I bought it like July of 2022. I knew it was
Mm,
tight. I knew it was a little tight. And I had always said I never lost money on a deal. Like literally hundreds of deals, never lost a cent on a deal. And I would brag about that. But this deal, like I ended up losing, I think $27,000 or something like that. And I was like, okay, the market's different. Like, and so it took me losing money on a deal to be like, all right, I'm not going to buy expecting things to go up anymore. And so I
mm,
did so good on that model that like it's not a true loss, right? Um,
sure.
because you just subtract it from all the money you did make, so it's not the end of the world. But I would say that's what really kicked me into gear. I tried to sell that house in like December. It wasn't selling. I had to take it off the market. Uh, it actually kept smelling like smoke even after my guys painted it. So I had to
Huh.
call in like a much better painter to like prime it properly. Um, what's the primer called? Oh, this is a good. Oh, it's a good little tip. There's a special primer that ended up working really good. I'll think of it in a second. But
Okay.
anyways, I lost some money on the deal, and I just decided then like, okay, I'm gonna stop forcing deals that are tight, because
Yeah.
I was doing tight deals. We could do tight deals, and the market
Hmm.
was saving us, right? And so that helped me realize at the beginning of this year, I finally sold that house in January, lost 20 something grand. I don't know exactly, but lost 20 something grand on it. And then just decided, all right, I'm going to be super picky. Like I
Mm,
haven't bought a deal from a wholesaler. No, I've only bought one deal from a wholesaler this year, when before I was probably buying 5 or 10 a year from wholesalers. So like almost
mm.
all wholesaler deals to me seem too tight now. So I've really scaled back on buying from wholesalers. You know that. I'm like, I don't know, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. That's not, someone buys them.
Someone buys them. Exactly. Exactly. But
Yeah.
I'd rather do no deal than like worry about it at all.
Yeah, we're kind of the same way on the few, we don't flip as much, but we do one a month or so. And
Oh yeah, that's
I don't
awesome,
want to
man.
do I don't want to do the thin ones, like, 'cause I'm like, then you gotta like negotiate with the contractors and all that, and it just makes it feel a lot harder than it has to be.
And with the rates going up, like everyone's asking for you to help pay their closing costs. And, that's the unseen. Everyone's saying, oh, the prices are stable, right? And they are. They're pretty stable. Like they haven't really gone down in Jacksonville. But if you look at each deal on a deal by deal basis, you can go in the MLS and you can see what the concessions were. And that's not
Yeah,
really calculated when they say, sellers are still getting 97% of asking price. Yeah, for the purchase price, but the 20 grand concession that you gave isn't showing up there. And so I think
yeah,
that's where we're seeing um, the market kind of pushing back. And so
hmm,
that's where you really have to be careful. If you're buying a tight deal, you're like, okay, it's a $300,000 house. I'm going to make 20 grand when it's done. To me, that's tight, because you help someone closing costs, you get your butt kicked a little bit on the inspection, you can lose your whole profit. That's not even 10%. Like, like
yeah.
you can take a 5% haircut on the house and you just made nothing.
Yeah.
So
What's your criteria for what you consider like a good, you know, a deal that you would do in the changing market of today?
like I want to make 30 on a low end flip. So like
Okay.
if it's a $200,000 house, I want to make 30 grand on that. And then anything else, I want to make at least 10% like the bottom. Um,
Yeah.
and really it's more than that. Like if it's a $300,000 house, like I will do them for 30 still. But I have to love the house, love the neighborhood, think that reno is going to be super easy, and just feel super confident about the deal. The least confident about the deal, I actually want to go up from there. But I would
Hmm.
say um, over 300K like sales price, I'm looking at 10% profit and up. So like on a 500K house, you want to make 50 grand
Yeah.
as like a baseline starting number. Because again, you do one or two price adjustments. You give someone a little bit of closing costs. Your reno takes 2 months longer than you expected with your hard money costs. Like you're really eating into your profit quickly. Like when I started this
Yeah.
business, and I'm close to getting back there, but when I first learned, like from Ron LeGrand, his system was you pay 70% of the ARV minus the
Hmm.
repairs. Okay,
Hmm.
and that's how I did everything. I would say all the way until 2018 when the market just got so competitive and you had all these local flippers willing to do deals for 15 grand, but the houses were selling so fast and so easy. There's literally no risk that it's like, okay, I'm going to throw that out the window and I'm willing to do to get rid of that formula. But if you really want to be safe, and especially if you're a wholesaler and you want to be safe getting a deal, like that formula is the best formula to live by. It's just you're going to get less deals in today's market because it's so competitive. Other investors will offer more.
Yeah. Any other changes that you've made outside of just kind of being a little more conservative with what you're willing to pay for property?
Yeah, not taking on big renos.
Hmm.
One of my contractors had a heart attack in the middle of a reno we were doing about 6 months ago. Um, and so I've kind of lost, like, he's better now. He's fine. I could probably get it back. Um, but I'm not liking to take on big renovations. Like they just
Hmm.
keep raising the rates, and I'm not doom and gloom about the market, but I'm not super excited. You know, I'm still cognizant that the market could take a 5% dip, a 10% dip, even if it's just for a year or so, even if it's just, things always slow down in the holidays anyways. So like
Hmm.
November, December, January, they're historically slow months anyways. So anything you buy now and you renovate, you're going to be selling in the winter. And so,
Hmm.
you know, you might have to take 5 or 10% less when you put it on the market, at the end of the year. Things are taking longer to sell. Like the average, I don't know what it is exactly, but do you know it's like 60 days probably to sell a house
I don't
now?
know what it is right now, but I know the
Like,
inventory's up, obviously. So,
yeah, but it's taking longer. It's taking closer to 60 days average to sell a house. And so if you get into the winter with that, so it's really just being conservative, not taking on big renos. And I just I'd rather do nothing than lose
mm,
money. And that's
yeah,
that's my big mantra for the year. And like I am
yeah,
kind of doing nothing. Like I'm writing a book, I'm taking my kids to the beach, I'm like thinking about what other business I could start and like uh, you
yeah,
know, but that's like part of life. I'd rather be doing that than, lose more money on deals.
yeah,
Wholesaling's the way to go. Like wholesaling is the best, and my lead flows just dip, but the once my lead flow kind of kicks back in, which I know it will, um, wholesaling is always going to be your safest tried and true. Just take a little something, be on the right side of the trade, take risk off the table, make some
Yeah.
money. So if you can wholesale in today's market, like I really think that's where it's at. I had just built up, you know, in my mind where most of my deals were coming from me paying cash, being the guy who would be the end buyer, take it down. And like I kind of built up, I don't want to say an ego, but like I built up like a lazy way of like doing deals where that's the only way I would do deals. Where
Hmm.
I do think it's time to shift and do more wholesaling.
Sure. Yeah, especially for those properties that it's a deal, but just not a deal for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, we're getting close to the end here. There's always two questions I like to ask at the end. The first one's a little fun. Um, so the first one is, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation that you have ever experienced in a real estate deal?
Craziest or most uncomfortable. Um, I have one that kind of comes to mind. It's like um, we bought this house from this from a lady, and for whatever reason, she just kept sneaking back into the house and like sleeping there after we bought it. And so like we'd send over like the demo guys and the construction guys, and they'd go in and they'd call me every day and they'd be like, "Dude, this lady's here. She's sleeping in the house." And I'd be like, "Put her on the phone." I'd get on the phone. I'd say, "You can't keep doing this." And like I don't know if she had an extra key. She's coming in the window. And what was crazy is she said she was going to move to her brother's house in Tennessee, and she made like $140,000 like with her equity on the sale. So she had money. And I was like, why don't she's like, well, my brother's not ready for me to come up there. And I was like, why don't you go to a hotel or something? And she's like, oh, they're so expensive. I don't have money for that. I'm like, you literally just got $140,000. But she snuck back in this house like 4 or 5 times and like was just sleeping in the house in an empty house. It was crazy.
That is crazy.
So
That's
weird. And then she'd
hilarious.
leave every time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She was a nice lady. She's like, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. And she'd come back.
Unreal.
It was funny.
Uh, cool. The second
One time she
question
got mad. She's like,
for the
hold on. She said my guy broke
yeah.
her plant. She's like, I don't know. Your guy broke my plant. And I'm like, it's not your plant anymore. It's just not. Like,
I came with the house.
yeah, I'm like, take it if you're taking it. She's like, no, he broke my pot. I'm like, it's not your pot anymore. If you want it, take it. If not, like, you just gotta go. Like, I don't know.
Oh man.
So I don't
Um,
know. That's what came to mind.
sure, it's a good one. Um, the second question for newer people listening to the show is, if you could go back in time, give yourself, I guess your 18-year-old self, one piece of advice when you're looking for that first deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I would say just find a good system to follow, and if you trust it and you believe in it, um, just follow it to the T. Like, don't like like I don't know if it's YouTube or where like all the best content is or who like for me, I just kind of lucked into it. It was with I worked with Ron LeGrand, and I feel like I was just so dumb with business that like I just didn't even know to question anything. So like
Sure.
if he said read the script, I'd read the script. If they gave this objection, I'd answer like whatever the book said to do. And so like I would say I'd give myself the advice I took and just don't try to outsmart it. Find a system you know works. Like maybe they have good testimonials or some people that have studied from them or you like their content, it just relates to you, and just do exactly what it says to do. Like find a system to follow. I would say to start, like even if you have to pay $1,000 for a course or something, find some kind of system that's going to be a book that you can follow, and just do it. Like don't overly um, try to make it more complicated than it is. Because I think as we get older, um, we put up a lot of fears. Like the course will say, put a sign out in the yard, or call them on the phone, and we're like, oh no, I'm just going to text them instead, or just do whatever the course teacher says to do. That's what I'd say. Find a course, follow it, and just keep doing what they say to do without overthinking it.
Yeah. Good piece
What
of
about you?
advice.
What
So,
about you? What would you say?
what would I tell myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say keep it simple. Just, just. And it's kind of what I did in the beginning, actually, too. Now that I think about it, the first year I was in the business, all I did was um, text people or have VA text
Mm-hmm.
people, and when they said they were
Mm-hmm.
remotely interested, I would just call them, and that was the
Mm-hmm.
system, right?
Simple.
And then I made the mistake of overcomplicating it for like a year and a half after that, and trying to build out this massive team and all that. And I was like,
And
wait a
workflow and all
second.
that.
And I was like, wait a second. I made less money this year when I worked
Right.
more, and now I'm back to trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's it. That's it. I
so,
totally agree. Find the,
yeah,
like, what works, and literally just do that.
yeah. Like people always ask me, like newer people, Jack Free or whatever yellow word you run into people, they're like, well, what marketing channel should I use? And I go, doesn't matter. Just pick one and just stick
Mm-hmm.
to it. Usually I tell them, I mean, you
Yep.
probably don't want to try direct mail unless you got like a 20 grand budget because you're going to screw up a lot of the first appointments. But you could just do that if you got the
Sure.
budget. But just pick one. They clearly all work, right? Like
Yep.
your SEO works, my cold calling works. It just
Writing
them all
letters.
works.
You
Yeah,
could hand write a letter and put it in the mailbox if that's all you can do. Like, but just
yeah,
do a lot of that.
yeah. Right. Yeah. No, one guy just knocks doors. That's it. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it all works. So I guess that's what I would tell myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, man, if this was great, but if people want to reach out to you after the show, questions, or maybe some wholesalers who have some decent deals out there, how can people go about reaching out to you?
Probably email is the best. It's trevor.houses@gmail.com.
Still always amazed that you have that email. No one beat you to it.
Dude, I was like, I don't know how old I was when Google came out. That was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 18, 20.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, this is great. Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, good luck to everybody. Happy to help. So shoot me an email.